Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Ben Chamberlain. I'm SVP of Product Management at UMT, and welcome to today's webcast, Leverage New Thinking in Applications Portfolio Management. This is the first in our Portfolio Analytics Leadership Series, and I'm excited today to welcome Mike Gruia, Chairman of UMT, to talk us through this APM discussion. A couple of housekeeping announcements before we kick off. The lines are on mute today, so please use the question and answers manager to interact with us during the call. So no further ado, I'd like to hand over to Mike Gruia.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I usually say to people when they say, what do you do? So I say, I do portfolio analytics because it sort of conveniently covers everything I do. Well, you know, we look for the last 20 years, and most of the big IT decisions and planning issues, they all look to me to be related to portfolio analytics. This doesn't mean that we should ignore other things. So this talk is going to be about how we do portfolio analytics today and what are the new ways that are going to do portfolio analytics in the future. Well, it's great to be here. I hope things I will talk about will resonate with other things you already heard on this topic. And I'll try to make some connections myself in case you miss them. Back in '96, we dreamed about a way of connecting the enterprise in order to optimize process and investments and to create a transference. Gartner and Giga loved it. Why? Because the first time a product focused on connecting the enterprise. The focus was not on drawings, but on relations. A few years later, we added mathematical prioritization and optimization to transference and simplify it and focus the product to do only portfolio management. And this was successful. Gartner positioned UMT as the visionary in their MQ, and Meta ranked UMT as the leader of all portfolio analytics. Microsoft saw the value and recognized UMT product as the best portfolio analytics and acquired the software. Today, UMT software is incorporated in the 2010 project server. Actually, I work on creating that product. Back in 2007, UMT recognized an opportunity to be the first company that addresses head-on the project financial server, and we released this in 2010, and right now it's being used by close to 50,000 users. And this year, we released IT 360, an IT analytics planning and control solution for managing the business of IT. We succeeded to build the biggest project and portfolio practice in North America, and perhaps the world leader of portfolio analytics software on top of the Microsoft platform. Every once in a while, you create a great product. We have been fortunate. We created 3 products in the last 15 years. Portfolio management, it just didn't change things for UMT and me personally. It changed how the whole industry is viewing and doing portfolio management. The project financial server, it changed the project focus to financial and financial governance. And finally, what we're doing today with IT management, we hope will change the way organizations think and manage IT. Are you managing your application? Does it matter? It sure does. Applications today consume a major portion of the IT budget. According to Gartner data, application development and support account for more than a third of IT budget. Almost every organization has worked to transform their businesses. Yet, strangely enough, few companies have a well-known process for managing the application. If you're looking at this graph, according to Gartner figures, the average maturity for APM is 1.37 on a scale of 0 to 5, which is substantially less than the average across topics of 1.74. Notably, financial management, both an important consumer of APM information and an important source of it, it's also low on maturity with an average of 1.73. In stark contrast, project and portfolio management is around 2.13. The danger for the organization is that APM is a critical capability, and a poor APM lessens the effectiveness of all IT portfolio management. I don't know the exact correlation between a low score and the return on managing the application, but I do know that in PPM the difference between a mediocre, say a score of 1 to 1.5 to a good one, which might be 3 to 4, is approximately 30%. But there is really no longer any debate over the fact that APM is much more complex than PPM. Early evidence shows huge difference between mediocre and good APM. We have seen the evidence that the difference between mediocre APM performance and good APM performance is around 50%. So the question would be, would you invest with somebody that has a poor record, say 27%, 1.37 equals 27%, when you at least should expect 50%? I wouldn't do that. In the moving margin code, the head of the firm said that there are 3 ways to make money. Be first, be smart, or cheat. I will help you understanding how you can get smarter. Today, I will tell you what really goes on APM, how APM creates value, how to recognize and overcome barriers, and how can you make the APM matter. So I'm here today to tell you how my team at UMT has tapped into technology to build the APM solution and discover how to run the business of IT. And you know, if we're going to get out of this current APM low capability situation, we can just marginally improve what we're doing. We can just extend our PPM capability. We cannot just retrofit all software of PPM software or enterprise architecture software to look like APM solution. We're going to do it the old-fashioned American way. We're going to invent our way out, working together. Now let's get started. Right now we're going to go to a poll question number 1, and I insert a few polls in our webcast because I want to have a dialogue with you. I just want to feel how you think about what's your opinion on certain things and so far and so on. So what I'm asking here to select a choice the best describes what your enterprise is regarding its application portfolio management. And there are 4 choices. We have implemented, we're just embarking on APM, we intend to embark, and we're not there yet. So let me pause for a second, let's see what's going on. Okay, we seem to reach a steady state. So let's see what we got here. We've seen that about 50% they implemented APM process and software. And you know what? We should learn from you what worked for you, what didn't work. We see about 29 that they are embarking on the APM, which is great. I hope that whatever you hear today will help you. And we see about 22% that intend to embark. So it's quite encouraging. I mean, we have more than 50% that in one or another they are on the move, and about 15% that already did it. And we have about 30% that are not there. Hopefully, you hear enough that will help you to get the organization to think about. Okay. The most advanced CIOs have an intuitive understanding that APM is part of a larger context and contains the most of the IT and the business. We learn that it makes sense to talk about 4 connected portfolios: business portfolio, application portfolio supporting the business portfolios, technology portfolios that offer infrastructure services to run applications, and project portfolios that are providing the application and technology renewal. These portfolios are connected. I will show you later the connection. What is important to understand that the focus is not on APM only. Because if we describe the business and the technology model where APM lives, we can ask questions, real questions, like what's the cost of the application, or which processes are key to our business and subsequently to the application related to them, or how many years should I keep a certain application. Now, I'm not for 1 minute suggesting that that's the only kind of question that we should ask. So, how APM creates value? Well, analysis and decision rules are what most organizations use to run their business. So using certain rules, which I call levers, it is a great way to analyze and make decisions. So to be clear, what I'm really suggesting here is to have a unique opportunity to make our APM processes more practical and effective at the same time. We have identified 11 value levers or techniques that enterprise can use to get value through APM. These techniques fall into 3 categories: strategy, control, and decisions. Organization can use strategic levers to address business IT alignment, or managing portfolio financial goals, or managing transformation strategies such as cost reduction or revenue growth. In this chart, for example, we plan the run ratio of the portfolio and track it against the plan. I think we have a big problem when run proportion of our spending is so high. So the implications of that are vast. 80% of the IT budget and perhaps 3% of all the company expenses is trapped in running the business. For some industries, like banking, this represents close to 5%. So the question is, how we manage our application portfolio to get the run ratio down. Another important thing that APM levers allow us is to gain control. Individuals treat their job or think that their job is to control the effectiveness and cost of IT. And those individuals are the most beneficiaries of the effective APM. Some of the metrics that they will be looking for include total cost of ownership, cost allocation to the application cost, cost per unit of revenue, or cost per unit of operation. In this chart, we depict how the money flows and what is the cost of ownership of an application or the IT cost to the business. A CFO might ask, will the total cost of ownership for the cloud will be lower than what we're already spending for IT? Well, the answer might be, that depends. And you might ask back, do you know what you're already spending? People usually depreciate the assets, and after they are fully depreciated, they buy more. The CFO also should ask the CIO for a fully loaded cost of each application, including CAPEX and OPEX and all associated labor. So what we are actually experiencing here is a system that has economic interdependence. The participants in this APM economic system are dependent on each other for products and services they cannot produce by themselves. This economic interdependency led us to think how we handle the money aggregation problem. Decision-making regarding the application lifecycle remains the most important use for APM. Company will be using APM for application rationalization or modernization or application renewal or evaluating the impact of a move to the cloud or to other emerging technologies. In this chart, we track the value decline and renewal of an application. Someone asked once Warren Buffett to name the most important factor he looks for in a company. He replied, a sustainable competitive advantage. Well, that's easier said than done. Companies develop and introduce software innovation all the time to address new capabilities. But what happens when another software vendor develops an application very similar to the one you just recently purchased. Typically, you are left wondering, does the new application provide higher value than the one I just paid for? Keep in mind that the challenge here isn't about managing application decline, but rather that many managers don't know that an application is declining until it's too late. Furthermore, these managers don't know the declining rate of their application nor the cost of a possible loss of a core competency. So this one will take us to the next poll. So if we can pause the next poll. Here I'm asking you to select the best or describe your assessment of the importance of APM to your organization. Is this strategic or operational? Okay, so what do we got here? Let me jump to something very intriguing and interesting. About 13%, they think that it's neither strategic nor operational. I would like to know what they had in mind. But let's jump to the ones that they are more in the line that we're going to talk about. It seems that close to a third, they think that it's strategic, and about 50%, they think that is only operational. Hopefully, as we hear more about it, you'll be able to see that perhaps APM is much more strategic than what you think. So right now is the time to start to talk about the barriers, about the things that really stand in our way to implement the APM. I thought a lot about it, and I had originally a list that was much bigger than the one I'm sharing with you, and I took my time to think what are the most important things, what are the things that we've seen again and again that there are barriers. So the number one, in my opinion, is the APM is not viewed as a strategic discipline. And actually, the survey that we did a few seconds ago actually supports this issue. So if APM is not viewed as a strategic discipline, then we should not be surprised by the low awareness regarding the value of APM. The management often asks why APM consumes so much time and has so little impact on the company action. So could end, and you might discover even deeper frustration. The sense the APM, at the best, is an operational thing that does not create or at least protect the strategic advantage of the firm. The number two, many application planners feel that they are doomed to make the right choice because the huge number of possible solutions. We all know what's good to have lots of solutions, but I'm going to tell you what's bad about it. All this choice has a negative effect on people. Strangely, it produces paralysis. With so many options to choose from, people find it very difficult to choose at all. The third issue is the cross-IT domain interdependency. The implications are well beyond the IT domains. The participants in our IT system are dependent on each other for their services they produce together. So my usual question is, it is any more possible to make decisions in isolation? You need to ask the question, how my decision will impact the business or the infrastructure or other applications. Similarly, at planning stage, you need to coordinate the deployment and take in consideration other deployments from across IT or business vendors, and this is difficult. Perhaps the biggest consequence of interdependency is the increasing complexity, and complex systems are difficult to model and manage. The fourth thing, it really gets me to say that the proverbial garbage in, garbage out definitely applies here. the quality of the decision will definitely be impacted by the availability and quality of data. Once an option has been defined, we need to specify the expected benefits and costs. Value achieved from cost reduction is more predictable. On the other hand, value derived from potential application renewal is more difficult to predict. So the fifth one is about liquidity of the investment. So while liquidity or lack of that can negatively impact portfolio management, most of the investment decisions are irreversible. Different than your personal investment that you make, that you can liquidate, you cannot liquidate the investment in technology. You can abandon them, but you will not recover the cost. So the sunk cost effect has a secondary effect, such as the fear to make the decision. Another secondary effect is our inability to admit mistake and pull the plug on obviously fail or failing projects. It is the blind rationale that keeps otherwise intelligent people agreeing to throw good money after bad. Many times executives are not aware of the possible barriers and become paralyzed once they encounter the barriers. APM often begins well when an organization recognizes the barriers and prepares to address them. To give your organization a chance, we need to take a look at the barriers and formalize a way to overcome them. In the first APM effort, no organization has the knowledge, energy, or time to get rid of all the hurdles, but the big ones must be confronted and removed. Let's go to another poll, to poll number 3. And what I'm asking you to think about your organization and which barriers do you think that they are most important or the most critical. So the first one, that APM is not viewed as strategic discipline, huge number of possible solutions, the cross-IT domain interdependency, accurate estimating, and liquidity of the investment, or none of the above. All right, let's take a look to what we got here. I think it maybe requires a little bit more time because this is a little bit more of a difficult question because you need to think through. But a picture starts to emerge. I'm glad that very few, there are none of the above. It's interesting that liquidity of the investment doesn't bother anybody, so we'll take it off the list. The number one is the cross-IT domain interdependency. And you know what? This is one, right now it's not the first one, it's the second one. The cross-IT domain interdependency, it's a big one. It's no question, it's a big one. Okay, we got it. The estimating of benefits and costs, totally agree. It's 38%, and actually, if you don't have those correctly, many of the decisions, they won't do you any good. And I see some of you, at least, they start to see that because APM is not built strategic discipline, it's something that creates kind of a barrier. Okay, that's great. Let's keep moving. And right now, we're going to move a little bit on the positive side. I'm going to offer you perhaps some solutions. And maybe what I'll offer is not the solution and not how to do, but I'm going to give you some principles, which I believe they are much more important than a simple process or to-do list. So I think we can start to see the beginning of a new era for APM that starts to emerge. It is spread across a number of different IT disciplines in which rules, cooperation, collective action, and complex interdependency play an extremely important role. Principle number one, integrate across organizational silos. Decisions based on a narrow application view are incomplete. Above all, understanding the existing relation between business, application, infrastructure, and project is the first and necessary step. Maps of the relationship between IT and business domain are used throughout the APM lifecycle to analyze, make decisions, and to create implementation roadmaps. For example, let's see how you use that. If you are presented with a 30% budget reduction, what would you do? Take out a hatchet or surgically cut costs with a scalpel. Without the right map and financial model, you will have to use a hatchet and blindly cut innovation and programs. Analytics can illuminate high-level questions about investment optimization, company strategies, and performance only if the decision makers can see across IT domains and business units and consider information and decision from the enterprise perspective. Let's look to principle number 2. Use simple rules for complex application decisions. When the selection decisions like project portfolio management are simpler and easier to model, we're able to build mathematical optimization models. You might ask, what hard problem are we solving here? Well, in the application decision domain, the number of alternatives is huge. Consequently, we need to simplify. Smart companies have done just that by creating a few rules that define the direction of the analysis and action. They begin with the rule, they learn how it works out, and they improve it. For example, the company management might set rules regarding the transformation proposals. The rules might demand that minimize upfront expenditure, or provide benefits immediately rather than paying off in the long term, or use existing resources. The rules help people avoid the paralysis that often strikes when they are confronted with too many alternatives. Let's go to principle 3. To close strategic gaps, focus on core competencies. Why? Because core competencies are the roots of competitive advantage. Why is this important? Focusing on core competencies will clarify to the entire organization what is important. Once you identify core competency, you can monitor and enhance them. Let's go to number 4. Consider openness and collaboration an intangible asset. Think of your to-do list at work. Chances are that the most important activity on that list require you to work with others to accomplish. And the success of those things, whether you are innovating a new product or implementing an important application, depends on the effectiveness of your collaboration. The knowledge required to make the right decision is beyond the application domain. Bring together transparency and collaboration, and you have a virtuous circle. Principle number 5. Unleash the power of learning, improving, and evolving. Finally, monitoring results and organization capability have to be built into the process to provide continuous testing against actual results and expectations. You might start by asking a few questions. What kinds of learning are crucial? What are the challenges in maximizing them? And what's the most important rules for building an effective learning organization? By understanding and applying the principles of APM, you boost your chances of successful APM implementation. Let's go to the final poll right now. And here you need to select the thing that best describes your assessment of the applicability and importance of APM principles to your organization. Well, let's see what we got here and what we can learn from that. Well, it seems that the number 1 principle and the number on the list of your perception of things is to integrate across organizational silos. Thank you. This really validates the way we think, and it's the number 1 thing. Use simple rules. I'm glad they made up to this list because I think it's one of the underrated, underappreciated type of things, but that's the only ones that work. And if you do this right, you can get a lot of mileage out of that. And I'm surprised to see the strategic gaps here, and number 3 with 22%, but I'm very pleased with that. This shows a very strategic thinking. All right, let's move to the next slide, if I may. So, by now, you might be asking, what's the untapped potential of APM? And what's the economic impact of APM? Let's look at two facts. First one, that IT application investment accounts for 34% of the total IT spending today. And the second fact, that the IT spending by itself is more than 4% of the company operating expenses. For some industry like banking, this represents more than 8% of the operating expenses. By looking at these different levels, we can see that APM can have a positive impact on business effectiveness, application and project spending. As the chart shows, we estimate the application renewal efforts can help companies to keep their competitive advantage and reach that in a more effective way. They can decrease the cost of IT by employing application rationalization and modernization. And perhaps the last one, which is very dear to my heart, and perhaps I would say it's the most important, but it is, the demand generation and ideation can be significantly improved. And let me spend a second on that. Without an APM type of thing, all the ideation and generation of ideas has to come from a white piece of paper. People, they have an idea, then they write it down, and at the end you have lots of ideas, and use a very sophisticated method to optimize these things. And actually what you might be doing, you optimizing or you maximizing the value from the worst ideas in the world. I'd rather have the other way around. I'd rather have the best ideas, and I don't need so much sophistication to optimize that. And what APM will give you a possibility in a very organized way to get the best ideas based on reality. Our belief that APM can improve IT expense effectiveness by close to 9%. So, one question that we ask, how can you tap into existing technology to support APM? What are the key areas of technology that you should be looking? And I divide it here in two things, or two groups. First, obviously, you need, everything we're talking about is about decision analytics. But the second group, which I call the enabler, the foundation, you got to get this group also right, because otherwise you won't be able to make decision and analytics. In the first group, we're talking about the business intelligence. And here you need to perform what-if analysis. You need reporting templates. And in order to analyze each portfolio, to provide different views and reports across IT domains and support transformational decisions. And then one thing that I think that is extremely important in this case is transformation roadmaps. Here we have to view the transformation roadmaps across the portfolio or by a specific asset. And metrics, yes. Learning, improving, and evolving is one of the main principles. The technology should allow you to establish and track against portfolio-level goals and industry benchmarks. And right now, something about the enablers. Well, looking here at the enablers, I have to say a few things. The number one thing, and you've seen in your response in connectivity, is relationships. Everything is relationships. You need to be able to build flexible enterprise architecture, because maybe you don't even know all the things from the beginning, and you might discover things as you go by. You need to be able to map this relation and connect all the portfolio. Second thing, which is important, is workflows. The third thing is collaboration. Definitely will require powerful collaboration and knowledge management capability to drive our discussion between key stakeholders and subject matters. And you need to connect. You need to connect. First, we're talking about demand generation. You need an integration of the project and portfolio management tool. Seamless integration with the project and portfolio management tool like Microsoft Project Server will be required in order to select and manage resulting transformation initiatives and programs. Finally, you're going to need some data integration. You need to connect to other enterprise systems like application lifecycle, PPM, CMDB, service catalog, ERP, whatever. Okay, so we developed this IT360 software with the thinking that how can you manage all these isolated foxholes or silos? All these isolated foxholes and silos. And as you look right now, the first thing that you need to worry about, you need to manage the priorities. These silos, you need to deploy the priorities and you need to align the silos and get them on the same page. They are connected to each other because the business might dictate the priority of an application might dictate the priority of service, and you need to understand that. They might be hidden, but they are there. And then you need to follow the money, yes. We'll not be able to make in the business world without following the money. To be able to answer total cost of ownership and other cost questions and to forecast and budget the model. And you know what? Many organizations talk about federated, monarchy, duopoly, and other types of governance. Let me make a statement here. Today, without workflow and collaboration, we'll have a new type of governance, anarchy. And let's move to another issue, coordination of schedules. And if you look here, we see that the application lifecycle has to be coordinated and planned carefully to sync with business needs and other application and projects that they are flying in the area. Oh, now it's dangerous. With so many wires and pipes, what a mess. And this will not work smoothly. So what is needed? So we started this project a few years back, the IT360, linking and synchronizing data, financial controls, and priorities, and draw the application, IT360, so we can link the data across all IT domains. And I think this is very important. We need to see data, model the decision, take actions, and track. All right, so what can you do going forward? I'm going to offer you some suggestions. So I believe you need to start our APM plan by first asking some critical questions. I listed some of them, but I think that 5 that I like the most is, what does success look like? Who are our sponsors and participants? What is our APM capability? How will we measure success? And how will we be organized? I suggest that in the first 6 months, you need to build credibility. Focus on just enough deliverables. Start with APM and move to PPM later. And above all, make sure that you deliver value that is felt and real. We're trying to cross a gap between the old application management thinking and the right APM stuff. And if you walk across a gap, you end up making it worse. What I'm suggesting is that you should leap off, we should increase our speed, and we should leap off on the other side and do it. So I want to see completely renewed change APM programs built from the ground up using powerful software. Now I'm sure that we need to be pragmatic and swift. Let's go for it, and as we do that, let's have a little bit of fun. So I'm going to conclude that with some comments. Definitely, from what you've seen and you heard here, you cannot be satisfied with the APM scores. You cannot be satisfied with the idea that we might improve from 1.37 to 2.4 in 10 years. This is what most likely took the project portfolio management to reach the current levels. I'm here to enlist you in helping reshape the APM story and move faster to higher level of maturity. I don't think we know enough yet, but I think we have begun to discover what the basic principles are. And I think we begin to understand them. I believe that the payoff will be very big. Expect from us more webcasts and research papers on these topics. Some of the webcasts will be present different issues and solutions. Others will demonstrate how you can use processes and tools to succeed on the APM journey. Let's do it together and share information and knowledge. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mike, for that very informative overview of APM. If you'd like to take some time to complete one more survey today, we take your feedback seriously and use your feedback to improve the delivery of these sessions. I'd like to thank you again for attending today, and please look out for the next invitation, the next in the series of our portfolio analytics leadership.